Just about ready.
Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Hey, afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And here we are with another edition of the New Media Show. And Rob, I lost a bet.
You did? With who?
Well, there was this pool that was going on.
There was.
On
Where was this?
how long you would be at Podbean.
Really?
Yes, it was a little bit of an internal pool, and I lost. It was only between two or three friends, so I lost the bet. I had you at 18 months.
Oh, you did? Wow. Okay.
So
who won?
Well, I'm not going to say, but it cost me just $1.
Oh, okay, boy.
So it was
there was a lot of risk there, was there?
Yes, yes, there was. I seem to have been on the backside of wagers of recent, the Facebook wager that I lost to Mike Dell for $1. Matter of fact, I got to give that to him. We were at Vegas together, and I could have gave it to him then, but anyway. So, wow. But anyway, hey, before we get into that, totally, we're lit and live. Thank you very much for being here. And if you're not participating in the lit and live, go to podcastapps.com. Grab yourself a very, very cool podcast app to participate in lit and live. But we'll talk about Boost and all that stuff here in a few minutes. So yeah, that was a surprise on my part for you.
Yeah, well, that's true. I didn't talk to you about it at all.
No,
I did it. I didn't really say anything to anybody. So.
Ne'er a thing. Right. And it came right off Podcast Movement, and bam, it was like, oh, okay, well, Rob is a free agent.
That would be a proper assessment right now. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you came back from Vegas with a crud.
Not everything stays in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
I did bring a cold home.
Maybe I gave it to you because I was the one with sniffles the entire time I was there. Had a head cold, and still you can still hear it in my voice. I'm still a little scratchy myself, but yeah, it was an interesting. It was, of course, we did a live show there, if you want to call it that. There was an audience, but kind of like our YouTube audience, there wasn't many people there.
Well, because everybody left by the time we did our show.
I know. Everyone went home on Friday. And
on Thursday, there was a lot of people left on Thursday too.
Yeah, so it was like, I think we started with like 10 in the audience, and at the very end, it was crickets.
Right.
So we haven't gotten those audio or video file back yet, but we expect to have those soon.
Yeah, well, Bill posted. I thought it was a good conversation up on stage.
Yeah, it was a good conversation for sure.
So it'll make for a good episode when it comes out. So yeah. Just a matter of getting those media files. But I did notice that James Cridlin and his Pod News Live show got his audio files out of there the same day, and he posted it the same day.
How was that?
I didn't actually. I was working the booth, so
he must have gave him a recorder or something.
Well, that's kind of what they did with us too. But yeah, that could very well have been the case. Have it be his recorder instead of Dan's.
Yeah.
Dan's recorder, right? So anyway, so we're a little delayed in getting that episode out, but it's coming.
So as soon as we get it, we'll punch it up and somewhere in between. But let's just talk a few minutes about the show itself.
Right.
And I'll just put it this way. I thought the traffic was really, 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 really light.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I had shipped down to the event just a little over 1,000 inserts for the the
bag insert
bag.
Yeah.
Right. So I was assuming that was the number that they were forecasting. was like 1,100, 1,200 range.
Right.
So, and I think that probably was pretty close. Or it could be less. Is that what you think?
I I was pretty excited the first night when they had the ambies. There was a lot of people there.
It was a packed house. I know. I was,
and I thought it was going to be a great show. And I think a bunch of them came to the ambies and left. So, and our booth position, we looked at.
I know you were in a tough spot.
We looked at the map and we mapped it, and I did not know there was a hallway in between me, and so I wasn't in the best location, but we got a fair amount of traffic over there. There were good discussions. Don't get me wrong. Mostly, how can I save money, and largely from one or two companies. So that's the conversation I've been having this week. Is how do you save me $1,000 or more a month? And, that we're making that happen. So I think people there were talking to us largely about their budget.
Yeah.
And looking to save money on their hosting and their ad insertion and all that. So that was a lot of the conversations I had. And then we had a couple of surprise visits to booth to talk about private podcasting and some pro hosting customers too. So, they were good discussions with those that we met with. But I would still say there was probably, of the people we talked to, 20 or 25% were brand new, were newbies at an industry event. So I was kind of surprised about that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm actually hearing increasing chatter in the industry right now too about shows that are looking to get higher percentage ad fills on their shows, because it appears that the ad fill numbers for shows are not as high as they used to be. So I can't really say.
Well, how high are they talking?
Well, I'm hearing in the 30 to 40% range is about the median right now.
No. I mean, how many spots do they want? Or their actual fill rate is 30 to 40%.
Fill rate on their available inventory of what they have. Right.
Is that including, so is that long tail?
That's like a host. No, it's typically larger shows that are involved in the hostery side of the ad sales.
So they're only doing on brand new episodes and 30 to 40% ad fills? That's, I did not hear that story. That's concerning.
And then, your comments about platforms looking for less expensive options. And I do think that a lot of the larger shows are starting to expect free hosting.
They're not getting it in many places.
Yeah, I think there's different models that are being applied. I think that there's criteria that has to be met before that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Typically across all the platforms, and some of them will deduct the hosting costs from the rev share,
right,
as well. So there's kind of a whole bunch of directions on that, or they have to participate in let's say a programmatic approach. I know last week Podbean announced a Podbean VIP program that was geared towards doing that same concept, right, of trying to appeal to larger shows and to give more to them as an attractive component. I think more and more of these shows are expecting higher fills on their available inventory, and but I've also heard that the direct response advertisers, which are typically not that worried about the details of the shows and the audience and stuff like that, even DR is being analyzed at a level that we haven't typically seen in the past, as far as ROI and things like that.
If ad fill rates are down that low, then these companies are going to be less inclined to do, you get free hosting for some sort of, because I know someone that is got a very, very big show. he's on a platform where he's giving up 50% of his ad revenue already to the company, plus paying for delivery.
Yeah.
And he was very unhappy. He says, hey, after I do the math, my margin's down to like 35%. So, the company's taking 50% plus, the ad fills costing him another, 15% on top. So he's like, that's, it's BS. And he doesn't have a small show. So, we'll see. I can, if these models hold up.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, there's still quite a few shows out there that are sold out. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. But I think it really is vectoring to certain genres of shows that are getting more and more or less success. And I guess in the reputation those shows are for delivering an ROI, right?
Yeah.
So, and the campaigns are going to those shows that are delivering.
For the first time ever, I heard someone say, yeah, we love small shows because they deliver great ROI. I about fell down. I'm like, well,
it's been a while since you've heard that, right?
Yeah, and this came from a media buyer. And I was like, oh, we can do business all day. You and I need to, continue to have a conversation. So I just think that maybe some of the media buyers are starting to wisen up that big show doesn't always mean, performance. But, again, I think from my perspective, it was, well, I had someone on the floor that no one knows is semi-associated with Blueberry. And they actually two people, and they were going around and had a whole bunch of conversations. And this is and again, I didn't go and talk to a whole bunch of vendors. I just, I was in the booth doing my thing. And their word back to me is an underlying panic in.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's getting squeezed.
Yeah. Everyone's
Content
getting squeezed.
Is getting squeezed.
Well, companies are getting squeezed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say companies that have an expectation of guarantees are getting extra squeezed.
Right.
So, those are tough deals to do now.
And those are the particular companies that I'm getting queries from for hosts that are, they're not willing to pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month for their media delivery cost. And, right. And they're looking, I just come over and lay out what we do and the pricing we're giving. And I get this look like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you haven't looked around in the past 5 years of the opportunities available with other hosts. And I think the rooster, it's let's just be frank. It's going to be tight for everybody. I'm not saying it's roses, but, I think the space is in for an interesting 12 to 18 months. I hate to be the naysayer. People are going to say, Todd, don't say that. But I think it's going to be an interesting 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. I think the relationships between shows and platforms is adjusting right now. There's no question. And people are trying to figure out, how do we make the numbers all work going forward. And I think it's a difficult formula to solve. I helped one show today just because it's a personal friend or whatever that was not getting the fill that he had on his show. And I gave him, some ideas on places to go, and I know, and you're dealing a lot with, I'm sure, and I've been dealing a lot with shows that have been either currently hosted on Megaphone or have, recently moved over to that platform because, from what I'm hearing from those folks, it's from other folks is that for some reason the Megaphone platform is delivering a higher percentage of fill, and they're delivering higher CPMs on their programmatic.
Well, I've heard the conversation. Let's just put it this way. I had some opposite conversations.
Well, I'm sure there's, because they charge for delivery.
Right.
So
right.
That's the other side of that. Right.
Right.
I mean, if you can, it's all balancing all the factors, and that's what's complicated about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that each platform or each company has kind of a different model that they're going to market with, and it really takes some serious shopping around.
As I said
really,
during a session with during my panel with Rocky and a few others, there was some bragging going on about megaphone CPMs, and I said, that's fantastic. You're delivering those CPMs, but you're not delivering those type of CPMs for 97% of the podcasts that are out there. I said, you're only delivering those type of CPMs for big shows. The rest of the market is not getting it.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of a back and forth on that.
Yeah, I think if you look at the average CPM that AdvertiseCast has put out here recently, I think it was down a couple percent.
But Megaphone was bragging that they're delivering $40 and $50 CPM, and I'm like, okay,
over some shows, probably.
To a few shows,
right?
Just
like you look at the AdvertiseCast folks, and they're saying like $22 is the average.
So I think what a few get, the majority don't. So it's one of those situations. So it's like, because of their delivery cost.
Right.
Again, if Megaphone's taking 50% of the ad revenue, which is high in the space, we only take 30, and we reduce. Matter of fact, our cut is only 15% when the media buyer takes 15%. So my cut's even smaller, and to think that they're paying 50% of giving 50% plus paying for delivery. And you're not getting, at least the shows I talk to on the platforms, they're not getting fill rates that they expect. So,
is that a percentage that includes programmatic, or is that the host read side?
That's primarily host read.
Host read, right?
Yeah. So I think it's just we'll see what happens. And again, I mathed it out for one show. I said, here's your cost. And I say, now what, how much, can you do your ad sales yourself? Can you, where can you bring money back in?
Yeah. And what brands do you have direct relationships with that you can partner with to drive campaigns?
Yeah.
That gets back to how, a lot of smaller shows can get involved in sponsorship.
So it wasn't just the advertising piece. There was a lot of other people that were just looking to tighten the belt. And reduce costs.
Cut costs wherever they can.
I had the most astounding conversation with a Fortune 500 company, and they were asking about pro production.
Yeah,
and they said, "What is a typical episode cost on your pro services?" I said, "Well, it's typically probably about." I made $365 per episode for pro production. If you space that over time and you're on a continuing, and I said that includes a producer, production, show notes, all this. And she looked at me and said she was paying $30,000 a month for production cost on her episodes. $30,000 a month is what they were paying, and she said, "I think
was that a weekly show? Was that a weekly? It was
a weekly." And I said, "I think you're getting ripped off."
Yeah,
I said, "Was that a deal with a cousin or a brother or some? Who made that contract?"
It's a charity deal, right?
So, $30,000 a month. I was like, I said to her, I'm in the wrong business. And this was in the high end production, obviously. But I said, what are they doing? Taking a Zoom recording, editing it.
A Zoom recording.
A Zoom recording.
That's probably not the best.
Editing it, and putting it online. And I said, does that include show notes, social? Does it include a marketing plan? Does it include SEM? Does it? Nothing. I'm like, oh my God. Unbelievable.
Hey Todd, I heard on a show earlier today that talking about Zoom. I guess here soon, Zoom is going to be supporting double enders. So you'll be able to record this stuff locally, and then they'll upload to the cloud.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so that'll be more of a direct competitor to like a Riverside or StreamYard or a Squadcast, right?
Yeah, so nice. I like the idea of a double ender coming out of this platform.
Yeah,
that's what we're using today for you. So I think that it's an interesting dichotomy of time, and that was of course the second biggest conversation was, hey, I've got AI, let's talk. So it was AI, and
that was the conversation at Podfest too.
Right. We'd like to integrate. We've got an API, and I'm like, which engine are you using, and which model, and here's what I won't say what I'm thinking, but I think that we're gonna probably see wide adoption of AI within the podcasting space in the next 12 months for tools.
Right. I think it makes a lot of sense, because if you can save time, podcasters are always looking for ways to save time on their especially their publishing side.
And maybe it actually will. I'll have to stop complaining about show notes creation, how poor they are, and maybe we'll start to actually get some better show notes. But then again, it's always the wave of the hand show that's going on here, because not all AI is. This stuff is not completely foolproof, and I'm thinking that Google will start to detect purely produced AI content and handicap the articles. So it could be a double-edged sword. So we'll see. But
I think you do need to eyeball that stuff, and if you can customize a little bit without spending too much time, I think that there's probably a better return on that in the short run. Because I did hear that the GPT-4 platform,
came out today,
which is rolling out right now.
Yeah.
I guess its data set, I don't know if you heard this or not, Todd, is based on data that was captured, I guess, up through the end of 2022. So it's got information in it that is not 100% up to date, right?
You still can't provide a link to like a transcript and have it pull the transcript and do analysis on it. So you still have to use API calls and stuff like that to submit, because there's text limitations even in the query boxes that won't support a full transcript.
Full transcript text, right?
Yeah.
Though I do think that like the Capshow platform, I think supports indexing the whole episode.
Yeah, it's because they're able to connect with an API and able to send that data across in a different way.
Right.
But time will tell how that, again, do our podcasters going to spend the extra time, because it's going to add extra steps. And depending on your production flow, on whether they will spend the extra time to use these tools. So time will tell.
Well, hopefully what we'll see is a streamlining of the process, right? And then ultimately I am increasingly thinking that the AI may, could automate a lot of this publishing process. So
I'm not going to.
We shall see.
We shall see. But hey, I want to thank David Maddow from saying hi, and Fernando for saying hello as well in the chat today. If you're not watching live, please say hello. I don't know. I guess I have now the series. We signed for another booth for next year, but I really have to go back now and look at the ROI of Evolutions and make a determination if it's worth doing both their shows every year.
Yeah.
Based on,
it's just hard to know what the economy is going to look like.
Yeah, and based on the traffic this year, it's one of those situations where If I'm able to garner enough business from the people we talk to at that event, then I will probably go ahead and opt to execute. If we don't, then I have to have a serious look at it. The trade show space has changed. We're seriously questioning it. Some events I have to be there to wave the flag that we're still in business, but
right,
that's going to start thinning out.
Well, I think that is exactly the evolution of how a lot of the companies are looking at the space. And I know that's how Podbean looks at it too. Is that it's more of a put the brand out and just say,
yeah, we're still here.
We're here and available, and if you can get up on stage and you can present and you can show expertise.
But did you stick your head in those rooms during those rooms were very thin.
Yeah.
There's too many tracks. That's the problem there was just too many tracks for the content for the number of people.
And it just split people up too much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that the real test for Podcast Movement is going to be the Denver event, because I'm not sure that we got a clear picture of the demand or participation for Podcast Movement,
right,
in the Las Vegas event. So
we did not plan any major announcements at Evolutions, and just happened to be my team had some stuff ready, and I pulled the trigger a little early on some of it. But we basically put out, 3 new stats, graphs in our stats system. We did an episode comparison chart where you can, basically trace the trajectory of a show. We did a new stat called average daily plays, which is kind of very unique because it does some averaging. We actually put the math formula right within the info bubble on the site so people would know, okay, why does this number look so small? And then we came out with a listener and a subscriber number. And again, we gave the formulas and how we're coming up with those totals, because that'll be the biggest question is, well, how do you know how many subscribers I have? Well, it's not a perfect science, but we give them the formula to tell them how we calculated that. And some other stuff too, offering pre-roll to our flat rate hosting customers. So it just was, we didn't have a major announcement to make. And it's usually those shows we usually plan on making major announcements at, and we did not do that this year. So I think that, I think we rely on digital as much now as anything else to get the word out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can be fairly distracted. I think there's a case to be made that making announcements at the same time there's an event going on may not be the best time too.
Well, you do it before, the week before.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because people are distracted at the event.
Yeah.
So they're not going to see the news quite as much.
Yeah. Say hello to Patrick. Thanks for checking in on Facebook. Thanks for saying hi. If it's on YouTube, make sure you check in there as well. We appreciate it. Eileen, thanks for saying hi. And by the way, she said, congrats, Rob, for going indie. So let's go back to this discussion. I kind of teased you about at the beginning, but so I saw your statement, whereas you have said, I am basically want to be independent. And a good thing is now you can become a Blueberry affiliate, Rob, and refer customers to Blueberry and make some money.
Yep.
So
totally. And that's the kind of relationship that I want to have in the medium going forward is maybe, support everybody as best I can and look out for the content creator.
Right. Because there isn't a one size fits all with podcasters.
No, right.
And we've kind of learned that over time too.
Yep.
And we, sometimes you try to make sure you are servicing all of those folks, but there's definitely trends of types of podcasters that go to certain platforms too.
And I see it as a little bit of a struggle that I've had working for basically 4 different companies in the medium now, of feeling like I have to drive people to that one platform.
Yeah, of course,
they're paying. Not be what's best for them.
Yeah,
to go to that platform.
They're paying your salary, so of course.
Right. So So if I can create a better relationship with the medium and
Mhm.
all of the players in the space, then that is a win for me and a win for the content creator and a win for those platforms. So
Yep.
I I don't know if it's possible to do this. I don't know of too many others that have tried to pull it off.
Well, there was one before he went to work for Libsyn.
Oh, Dave. Right.
Dave. So Dave, Dave was an affiliate, and he was promoting Blueberry, and he was promoting Libsyn, and he was promoting others, and then he went to work for Libsyn, and zip, he had to, and he did a little bit of, here and there, and sometimes we'll know someone's not a perfect, well, rare. It used to be. If we knew someone wasn't a perfect fit for us, we'd send them somewhere else. But now we've closed those holes. So I don't do that anymore. But, 3, 4, 5 years ago, that might have been the case. But yeah, he's the only one that was really, had bridged it for a little while. Then he went to, like I said, he went to work for Libsyn, and that, it was just a good strategic move by Libsyn, by the way, hiring him.
Well, I'm sure that was all Rob. Yeah, I think the only other one that I can think of was Daniel J. Lewis.
But Daniel never worked for a podcast hosting company, so
that's true.
So he didn't have to, basically say you got to come over here.
Yeah, so as part of this shift, I'm actually doing calls with all of the major platforms to give me demos of their platform.
Oh, great! So get on my schedule.
Right. So I'm familiar with every little aspect of their feature set and how they work and their cost structure. So as I talk to folks, I can point them in the right direction
but
for
Rob,
what they need.
And here's the thing, where all the dead bodies are buried on all these platforms except for mine and Buzzsprout, and you've got insight on everyone else. So,
well, that's exactly right. I'm going to be talking to Buzzsprout, which I don't really know much about the Buzzsprout platform, but I'm going to be talking to them and then talking deeper to StreamYard and Riverside and also all of the other hosts too, like Spreaker. I need to get up to speed on what's going on with Spreaker. I need to get up to speed with even maybe Libsyn to some degree, because they've made a lot of changes since I left. So anyway, that's kind of my approach going forward, and I my strategy is just kind of unfolding here.
Sure.
And I'm not 100% sure what the right path is to go. So I'm all ears to ideas here, but I do know that I want to get more involved in creating more content.
So you've joined a part of a site as well. What's that site I saw that you're on there as an advisor.
I was actually on one of the founding partners of a podcast production and education company called Podcast Easy. So I've been helping them for probably a year and a half or more. Just kind of help them get off the ground and get their model. They're really more about education now. Their model's been shifting. So when they started, they were really trying to be a production company of sorts to start shows, help people launch, get them off the ground, help them on a week-over-week basis producing episodes, and then but the company is shifting more to become an education platform.
I do want to 21, and I didn't have the speaker turned up. 2,112 sats from Dave Jones. Good luck to you, Rob. You'll do well. We've got some boosts that came in from folks that were listening more than a week ago. 10,000 sats from Adam. The bump is due to Lit. We also had 50,000 sats from Adam receiving loud and clear. And that was for Geek News Central. Sorry. So we're lit and live. Don't feel to boost away if we're talking about something here that interests you. Rob, you need to get an Albi account.
That's all right with me. Actually, they reached out to me at Podcast Movement
because I can put you as a 50% split on new media shows, so the sats go into your own wallet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have the capability here because we are PowerPress powered on this particular show.
I want to get involved in all that. That's for sure.
So as soon as you get your Albie account set up, make sure you send me your Albie address, and then I'll add you as the split being the co-host.
Okay.
Isn't that cool? So you that 50 cents we just got, you can get 25 cents of that.
Okay. I'll take whatever I can get at this point.
I think so. So did it? I know you never want to burn any bridges or anything, but how did the news come to the Podbean team?
I think I announced it before any of them actually knew about it. So I think it was a surprise. So
so you probably talked to the boss, then he hadn't spread the word, and then you made the
before he had the chance to tell
anybody. So there, that was kind of one, 2, 3, 4, 5 sats from Marcus. Join the sat party, Rob. So
I will definitely. Well, I buy Bitcoin on a weekly basis.
Well, so you can buy some sats and and put them in your. You don't actually have to buy any sats because you're going to get some sats from the show donations. But
it's just a matter of creating a wallet and have them funnel in there. Right?
Yeah. So that's another thing that happened at Podcast Movement. There was a lot of Podcasting 2.0 people there.
Yeah.
And I talked to a whole bunch of people. John Spurlock. Of course, I talked to.
I saw John too. Right.
Talked to. I'm pulling a brain fart right now. I got an email I need to respond to. Anyway, it's from. I hate it when I do this. It's from Sam Setti, from Podfans, and what he's doing. The contract.
Yeah, I saw the demo of the site that he's working on. It was pretty impressive how they integrated the sats into that.
Yeah, so the only challenge that site is going to have is making people understand that they're paying to listen. And that is it's going to be an interesting, challenge, but I understand, what he's doing there. Talk to the Conshack folks, talk to the Albie folks. So the Conshack folks, man, they've got some ideas, and we sat for about an hour talking about one particular component that when I came back Monday, I was like, hey, dev team, can you do this by this? And they said, oh yeah, that's possible. And I was like, how come I'm just learning this from the Conshack people, and you haven't told me that we had a conversation about it in the context of premium, and it was one of those interesting conversations that you have like a little bit of an enlightenment with. So, but yeah, I think that a lot of people were. Now, I will say the Albie team with Sam doing their presentation on the stage, I sat there and listened, and boy, there was a lot of people that were completely and utterly confused. And we have to quit talking tech. We have to we can't talk about high level. We have to break this down it's so early. We have to break this stuff down by feature and benefit. Probably benefit feature, just to get people on the upswing of what is potential here. And it was interesting from that aspect that there was that many Podcasting 2.0 people at Podcast Movement. It kind of surprised me, actually.
Well, I think it is a wave that's growing, and I think it's interesting to see that develop. And I know that, I don't know, we haven't talked a lot about the podcast standards project too much, but I think
it's still not fully launched.
I know. It's been quite a while.
They're getting close.
Yeah.
And again, it's I don't want to say too much too early.
Right.
But there's been some activity in basically building a group that is outside of Podcasting 2.0 that is really focused on protecting the space,
Right.
protecting open podcasting. So,
though I think there's also a need, because the name kind of implies a little bit, potentially a little bit broader scope at some point.
Yeah.
In its goals, I
Yep.
guess might be the best thing to
Yeah.
say. And certainly the advertising market needs some help there. And I'm not sure that the IAB is a good steward of that at this point.
So, again, I don't want to get the cart before the horse. They're still working on
Right.
mission statements and all that
Right.
stuff. So,
What the purpose of it
Yeah.
at the beginning is, let alone what it might be in the
and
future.
I will say this for those that are wondering, it is going to be open. You're going to be able to have an inside look at it.
Right.
Although there will be I guess for a better word, some sort of a decision body that will
Right.
promote new things and stuff. That's, again, this is not, some of it's driven by what Podcasting 2.0 does, but it's completely separate, and it's looking at some of that stuff and what we can all get behind. And then in much, much bigger things of what a podcast is and the specs that we all should be following and that kind of stuff. So
certainly this is the type of organization, I think, and you and I both have talked about this a lot, that we've needed in the industry for a few years now. And it's good to see that it's starting to grow and develop. Most of the people that are involved in this are from the hosting side currently.
And
but I think we
apps.
are seeing
there's
some
apps too, yeah.
apps involved as well, which you kind of have to.
That's what's been missing up to this point is the app developer participation in any type of discussions. So, but hey, do we want to talk about the Hall of Fame at all? I think we can probably say a few things, but not where. Can we?
I don't know if we should or not. I know it's confirmed.
Yes.
I did a call about it as well.
So I'll just say the Podcast Hall of Fame is no longer associated with Podcast Movement.
Right. It's got a new partner.
Right. And those details are being worked out. But needless to say, the Podcast Hall of Fame is moving to a new venue. And more on that.
A new kind of partnership too.
Right.
So it's more than just a venue, but
right. And there will be some probably forthcoming announcements about a more formal organization for the Podcast Hall of Fame too. I guess we'll leave it at that. But it's basically something that, well, let's just be frank. Rob, I, and the other Rob
Walsh
have, we're trying to be good stewards of the Hall of Fame and make sure it moves forward. So,
yeah,
I guess that's probably what we can say at this point.
Yeah. So it's not dead. So if you
No.
didn't see it at Evolutions and you didn't see the website updated, because it's at podcasthof.com. And if you want to go check it out, I mean, that's going to be the website for it is going to continue. So just a matter of getting it updated with the new information.
And podcasthalloffame.com is forwarded to podcasthof.com as well.
Right.
So either domain well, that's the primary domain is podcasthof.com.
Yeah.
And if
so the inductees currently are being thought of as kind of the owners of
or stakeholders or whatever it may be.
Stakeholders. I'm not sure how that's going to be structured in the long run, but that's where it lives right now. I don't know that it's going to be owned by anybody else a Podcast Movement.
No. Right. So anyway, we're working on those details and just trying to be a good steward of the. Meanwhile, the Podcast Awards registration is open at podcastawards.com.
Well,
yes, so you can go over there and register.
And I'm also the voting is also open for the new board for the Podcast Academy as well for the Ambies. So I'm running again. So I've been on the board for 3 years now of the Podcast Academy, and I'm one of 11 people that are running for 8 board seats, and that opened today. So
I just continue, my concerns.
I know.
And I just think we could have more than just an awards thing.
Yeah, and
look at the money that was spent on the awards, where how much of that could have been diverted and spent on education and resources to help the podcasting space. It's, to me, and it's just being frank, it feels like it's an awards organization and not. I know that they have mentorship and all this stuff, but I think a general podcaster could care less. I don't know how much value they're getting out of it. So,
I know that the organization is working hard to expand globally. So they are going to be affiliated with a new podcasting event in Mexico City here coming up. So it's growing and expanding.
But what is that? What does that mean? What does that event mean? Is it just going to be another award show in Mexico, or is
No,
it?
it's not an award show at all. It's a podcasting conference.
Okay.
Type of an event, right? So, one of the sponsors of the Podcast Academy and the Ambies actually is putting on an event in Mexico City in I believe it's in June, I believe. So some of the team from the Podcast Academy is going to be there, but it's really just an event that has a partnership with the Podcast Academy. So I think they're also doing that with the podcast show in London as well. So the organization has been asked for, ever since I started, actually, the very first board meeting that I was on, I told everybody on the board that this organization needs to be a global organization. And it was difficult to get that started at the beginning, just because of just how much, how difficult that was to do in combination with everything else at the beginning. But now the organization has been established. There's good budgets and good support and good participation. Now's a good time to really kind of reach on a global scale with the organization. So that's what they're doing.
Should not come as a surprise that the iHeart Podcast Awards,
I saw that. Yeah,
Las Culturistas,
yes,
walked away with the top prize. The show, which is a joint production of Will Ferrell's Big Money Players and iHeart, snapped up the most votes in the listener voted category. There was listener voting for iHeart?
I guess so.
Where was that advertised?
I don't think they called it People's Choice. So
no, it's listener voted category. But where was that announced? The award for best overall host went to Nicole Byer, who hosts Team Coco's comedy series Why Won't You Date Me? Is that another iHeart production? Wondery's Smartless hosts Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett walked away with the prize for best over ensemble. He said, I heart our fans and everyone else here. So anyway, there's some known names in this list. But there was something in Pod News about it today, the breakdown of iHeart shows that won and those that didn't. So anyway, another award ceremony is over. Someone's got another trophy for their wall.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Todd, did you all see the new podcast consumer research?
I did. Yep, I saw that. They came out. So podcasting is still growing with listeners.
That was what I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Was it does appear, because that's the metric that I care about the most right now. It's not how many shows and how fast that's growing. What's going to grow the new shows is going to be if we continue to see listening grow.
I'm trying to find the, you sent me an email with a link.
Yeah. So it's showing that it grew. This is the Edison research for total U.S. population 12 plus. So basically everybody that has the physical and mental ability to listen is it grew about 2 million listeners from 22 to 23.
Oh yeah, there it is. Let me download it and I'll get it loaded here.
But monthly listening, interesting little dynamic. So 2021 showed about 41%. In 2022, 38%. So it actually went down. Monthly listening went down 3 percentage points. And then went back up from 2022 to 2023. It went up 4. So it actually surpassed 2021. So that's a good trend line.
Yeah. 83% of the U.S. population 12 plus is familiar with the term.
Right.
So podcasting familiarity is
went up by
to 83, 80, to 237 million. 64% of the U.S. 12 plus population have listened to a podcast. 42% of the U.S. population has listened to a podcast in the last month. And 31% of U.S. population 12 plus has listened to a podcast in the last week. So these are all record highs. Now,
so what are they?
It is the best time ever to be a podcaster. The audience is growing.
One piece of this that I would ask, I'm not sure that I know the answer to, is what does Edison Research consider a podcast?
Oh, that's a question I probably can't answer.
Yeah, I was just wondering that too, because it's the same thing that we saw in the research, right, around YouTube being the second most popular platform to discover podcasts.
Right.
And I think that's a little bit of a deceptive number to say it's the second most popular to find a podcast per se.
But we did see a bounce back in monthly podcast listening. We had the dip in 22 coming off COVID, and we're back up to pre-pandemic trending. It's back up a little bit. It's up to 42. As 21, it was 41. 20, it was 37. So, those numbers have increased quite a bit. Weekly podcast listing is again up 89 million, 12 plus.
Right.
So here's another one. 55% of those aged 12 to 34 monthly podcast listeners, of those aged 12 to 34, 40% of those aged 12 to 34 weekly podcast listeners. Where's the 40 plus listening audience? Come on now.
Looks like it's...
I go down a little further.
Down a little further. Has 51% of those aged 35 to 54 age-wise are monthly listeners, so 51%.
So that's 35 plus. Still is a big range. It's actually the biggest.
Yeah.
Which doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Well, that's always been the age range that was.
Yeah, 64%, 35 to 55 plus. So, but that 12.
So we saw the biggest growth in weekly podcast listeners. In the 35 to 54 category, it grew from 31 to 39.
Yeah, 51% of those aged 35 to 50 are monthly. 39% of those 35 to 50 are weekly. So again, that number's way up. It's way up. That's a 8-point gain.
Yeah,
in a single year. It's huge. But people are getting older, and this space is maturing. This is another one. 31 to 39%.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
right.
It's huge. Weekly.
Yeah.
This is even bigger. 45% of Black Americans listen to podcasts each month. 34% of Hispanic Americans listen to a podcast each month. That's massive.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. Those are big. Those are big numbers.
That's a big number. So, women and men of color have got but everyone's listening to everything. I don't know when I'm listening to shows. So, it's huge. Yeah. Now the African American percentage did not change from 22 to 23. It did go up on the Hispanic side, 32 to 34 from 2022 to 23. And then let's go into the ethnicity. So if we look at 2023, 62 white, 15% African American, 14% Hispanic, 3% Asian, 5% other, compared to 2013. So this is a 10, and the comparison is from 32 million to 120 million, 65% white, 15%. So it's basically, those numbers haven't changed dramatically. The Hispanic population listening has jumped massively.
Has changed, right.
Over 10 years, though. So that's a 10-year window.
Yeah.
This is the interesting one to me that was really made me go, wow, was 2013, 61% men, 39% women. 2023, 53% men, 46% women with 1% non-binary. So that, I think that to me is indication of also content creators. I truly believe still that more women are creating content now than men as far as new content creators go.
Well, and that number is probably going to continue to go up higher on the women's side. I think if we look at numbers in 2033,
right,
I think we'll probably have a higher percentage of women listening to podcasts than men.
But herein lies the thing too. This is what I'm wondering if it's going to happen. We're seeing all of these companies lay people off by the thousands. Every day I'm seeing massive people being laid off. Are those folks that are going to be laid off, are they going to look at podcasting as a potential opportunity? And I've been telling my personal audience for a long, long time, I'm like, listen, obviously I got a relationship with GoDaddy as a sponsor. I'm like, it is time now to have a side hustle. And that side hustle could be a blog, it could be a podcast, it could be, but the starting point is, get yourself a website, even if it's an e-commerce site and your side hustle is selling some merch. I'm wondering, with all these people being laid off, are they going to think of podcasting as a potential opportunity? Usually you're pretty desperate when you get laid off because you go on unemployment, you're on the job search for another year, your life has been uprooted. So maybe there isn't the thought of creating content because of the long haul to get to the point where it could make you a living wage. But I just wonder if this uncertain times is going to kick the creator space again for indies primarily. And, therein lies the question. So we just had a boost come in. Let me see what we got. 12,000 sats from Dave Jones. I never understood the eager conflation of YouTube with podcasting. It's like including FM radio listeners metrics in a Dish Network numbers. No other medium dismisses their distinctiveness like podcasting does. Man, he's on the point with that. Let me read that again. I never understood the eager conflation of YouTube with podcasting. It's like including FM radio listener metrics in the Dish Network numbers.
Well, Todd, I'm not necessarily surprised by it because we've been facing this podcasting is dead mantra since the very early days. I mean, the earliest podcasters really were very negative about the name podcast.
Yeah.
And it's always been kind of like this drumbeat that's existed, and it's lasted the test of time.
Well, here's another thing. This is a takeaway from podcast movement. I'm sitting in panels off the side where they're talking about YouTube.
Right.
And I kept saying YouTube music. And people would look at me, what do you mean? I said, it's not YouTube. It's YouTube music. It's different. Everyone keeps talking YouTube. It's not YouTube. It's YouTube music.
Now, there may be links.
Maybe.
From YouTube into YouTube music.
Maybe.
That's what they're currently doing with the music side right now.
Maybe.
I did talk to them, and they didn't give me a clear indication that was in the roadmap anytime too soon.
Mm-hmm. So I saw all this excitement, and matter of fact, which was kind of interesting, was there was a lot of how should we say, hosting companies that were going around saying, "What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You gonna play along? What you gonna do?"
I've been asking. I've been talking to as many of them as I can too to get a feel for where everybody's at, and I would say the general consensus that I can tell you right now is most of them are pretty negative about it because they're going to cache episodes.
And here's what
we've seen this happen before.
Here's my rebuttal. The listeners, not listeners, the podcasters. I need a fishing lure. I need a fishing lure for the show. One of those ones with a silver spoon. I need a fishing lure I can spin here on the show. YouTube music is going to be the next fishing lure that all the podcasters are going to be like, gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. And talk is cheap by podcast hosting companies to say, well, we're not going to support YouTube music. Really? Really?
Right. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Act tough until your content creators scream for it. Right.
Right. Really? So you start losing podcasters to another company that's integrated with YouTube. And I don't know if there's going to be integrations. I really hope not. But
that's probably going to be the only way it's going to work, because they're going to want an ad. I think, and I expressed this to them when I talked to them, is that in order for this to work, you're going to have to get an ad-free version.
Okay, well, here's the problem.
There is a problem with that. And
for 75% of podcasters, it's not.
Right. Most shows don't have advertising.
Most shows don't, so it's not going to be a problem for those shows.
Dynamic advertising.
Right.
But that does conflict with the direction and the focus of many hosting platforms right now. They want to get into programmatic. But you do have to say also, YouTube Music, not YouTube,
right,
has a much smaller user base, much smaller,
right,
than YouTube does. Right.
Right.
So I was told.
Much smaller. It would probably be like not even a rounding error.
Well, I've heard that the total user base for YouTube Music right now is about 80 million
worldwide,
right? So this is only going to roll out in the US.
Right. So what is the YouTube user base? Billions?
Just in the US, what is?
Well, we don't have the billions in hand.
Right. What is the percentage of that 80 million that's in just the US? I mean, I was speculating probably half of it, maybe. You could say is half of the. So you're talking about a platform that has 40 million users.
So YouTube as a platform has 2.514 billion users YouTube, worldwide.
On the video side. Right.
So what is 80 million? Someone quickly do the math on this. What is 80 million of 2.154? That isn't even, it's less than 5%.
Right. And then you slice that in half, US only.
So 2.5%. 40 million is not a number to shake a stick at. That's a pretty big number still. Don't get me wrong. But
there's plenty of other podcasting platforms that have bigger numbers.
But if there is not an interconnectivity where I search on YouTube, if I'm on YouTube and I search for Geek News Central, you're going to find my video channel. Right. But if I search on YouTube and I find Geek News Central audio only, I just don't. Why would they do that? Why would they drive eyeballs to earballs?
They're going to have to monetize because they're monetizing the video side typically, right?
Right. Well, they're going to monetize it, but then, okay, you're going to give them ad free. They're going to have to incent. So we shouldn't even talk about this because they're listening and they're going to say, "Oh man, Todd and Rob said
think that they're listening."
Well, I'm just joking. Apple's listening.
Well, yeah.
So
all their competitors are maybe listening,
right? Maybe listening. So some of you are. Matter of fact, one of you said something the other day to me at Podcast Movement. I said, you listen. You've never said hello to us though. So. Anyway, I'm not going to get too excited about it, but we'll see what the podcasters want.
Well, I get a sense that they're only talking to a few people in the industry.
Well, did you know they were there at Podcast Movement? The YouTube music people were there.
Did you talk to them?
I did not, but they talked to a couple of other folks. They told me they talked to them. So I was like, no, I don't blame those other companies for not sending them over to see me. That would not have been, probably not a wise thing to do, sending somebody over to their, can't let Todd at Blueberry have a conversation with YouTube. But
well, they may not want to talk to us because we'll talk about them, because I'm not under NDA.
Well, me neither. I'm not under NDA either. So, but the company that I know talked to them, they told me they talked to them. They're all eager to participate. And it
I know
should not come as a surprise who that
Libsyn
potentially could be.
Did a stats integration with them.
Wasn't
They
Libsyn
announced
that
a
told
couple
me
weeks
that.
ago.
I'll leave that alone.
What, it wasn't Libsyn?
Wasn't Libsyn that told me that.
Mm.
I'm not going
I
to say
know-
who it was, because I'm not going to give them the honorarium back. They send them over to see me. I might have mentioned it during the show, guys. But,
Yeah, I'm a little torn about doing too much. Well,
it's.
I don't know. What is the opportunity for podcast? I mean, if you back up and you look at the big picture of this, what is the outcome here with YouTube that would be good for podcasting?
More
versus
listeners.
more listeners, and for them to be hands off on advertising with YouTube Music, right? Have it all be passed through.
Yeah. Pastor's good.
Yeah.
We're happy.
Right.
Everybody's happy.
Because honestly, we went through this with Pandora,
Spotify,
Spotify,
iHeart.
and so I forgot about them, but that's true. They all wanted to cash too.
That's
because
right.
They thought that they were going to add a second layer
They're
to
gonna-
monetization.
They're going to monetize the network.
Right.
And I'll use Adam Curry's words precisely. You can't monetize the network.
Right. Well, you do have to ask the question, is it worth it with only potentially 40 million total listeners? for the
Rob,
platform?
come on now. Come on. Now you're getting silly. Let's be honest. A listener is a listener is a listener. It doesn't matter where they listen, as long as they listen. As soon as I can
No,
get,
but
as soon
I'm talking about YouTube's benefit from doing this.
everything Google has done with podcasting has been a faceplant.
Right. Well, that's their history in the medium.
They could mess up a wet dream. It's like, come on, this is not complicated. You could have had a home run. How could have Google had a home run? They could have told their OEMs, we're putting a podcasting app, a dedicated podcasting app, along with Gmail, along with YouTube, along with a Chrome. It is going to come. Here's what, and they would have, and guess what? The OEMs would have said, okay.
Yeah, and build it into search better.
But they wouldn't. They didn't deliver a native podcasting app. They had the opportunity to knock this thing out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
They don't care. It's not that big of a priority. Why? Because Google's more worried about making money than selling, because they're not a big device. They don't have, they got pixels. But
well,
why?
Apple's been supportive of podcasting because their focus is not on eyeballs and
Their focus is on in-app sales, people using the devices. Now, don't get me wrong; they have
buying hardware is what.
And again, they have an entire 30% model for anyone that's on the App Store. So they have a app model, but how many in the early days? How many? I would love to see that study. I'm sure Apple has it. How many iPhones were sold when Apple put podcasting natively into the app? How many additional sales did they get purely because there was a podcast app? Because we all talked about it.
I don't know that there was any way to meter that.
I'm sure they have some use. They know how many times that button's clicked.
Well, because it wasn't always, the podcast app wasn't always a default app.
I know, but when it become a default app, they know how many times that button was clicked. So they know how, it probably gets a higher percentage of usage of, it's probably like maps. It's probably, it's every phone has a persona of its user that uses a 10 or 15 core apps. Yeah. So I'm sure they saw all that data. So Apple, why haven't you produced a app for Android yet? Come on now. I just saw that you put iMessage on Windows. Really? You put iMessage on Windows, so now I can send messages on, I don't have Windows machines anymore. But that should have been in Windows years ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back to this study. Compared to the U.S. population, monthly podcast listeners are more affluent, more employed, more educated. This has been the same number. We've known this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Household income. Here we go. U.S. population 18 plus, less than 75K, 57%. 75K more, 43%. Monthly podcast consumers, less than 75K, 48%. 75K or more, 52%. So beating the medium earnings average by 9%. So,
right.
Educational attainment. I like how they use that word. U.S. population, not college educated, 55%, college educated, 45%. Monthly podcast consumers, not educated, not college excuse me,
right.
not educated, not college educated, 48%, college educated, 52%. And for the record, I went in the Navy with no college degree. I earned my college late in life, or learned my undergraduate degree. So, don't give me no crap about what I just said. And I have very successful people in my family that don't have a college degree. They make more money than me. Employment status: employed full or part time, 50%. Not currently employed, 46%. Podcast listeners employed full or part time, 69%. Not employed, 31%. That's a big spread. That's a big spread.
You're more likely to be employed if you listen to podcasts.
Okay.
There you go. So start listening to podcasts and you'll be more likely to get a job.
Podcast listeners are spending more time listening than ever before. Since 2015, the average time weekly podcast listeners spend with podcasts has doubled. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the best time ever to be a podcast creator. I'm seeing this across. Matter of fact, our newsletter that's going out tomorrow, I talk about this specifically. It is the best time to be a creator.
Yeah.
2015, the average time spent listening to podcasts was 4 hours, 27 minutes. 2023, 9 hours and 3 minutes. That is a number.
Doubled.
That's a number.
Yep.
Average time weekly podcasters Average time weekly podcast listeners spend listening to podcasts. So we're not going to break it down by category, but less than an hour. You can look at these slides; they're available online. Less than an hour, 6%. 1 to 3 hours, 25%. 3 hours to less than 5 hours, 20%. 5 hours to less than 10 hours, 19%. 10 hours or more, 30%. With a mean of 903.
That's a big number.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
And look at the 12 to 34. They're 8 hours and 50 minutes. 35 to 54, 9 hours and 55 minutes. 55 plus, 7 hours and 43 minutes. Those, ladies and gentlemen, those are some numbers to do backflips over. Come on now.
Right.
So let's think about this for just a second, Rob. I'm going to pull up my iPhone and I'm going to get my calculator going here. CALC. In July, we had 763,000 episodes created in the last 30 days. Current number is around 360. We're not going to bring. So 50% less episodes being created. Let's just do thumb in the wind math. Thumb in the wind math. So
Right.
if they're listening, if in July, if they were listening to 9 hours of content a week across 700 plus thousand episodes, and now there's 367,000 episodes being created every week, and they're still listening 9 hours, it means the remaining 367,000 have got 50% more listening opportunity.
Right. Well, Todd, if you think back to 2008, 2009, when a lot of the really big podcasters started, it was a similar kind of climate. It was a down economy, and a lot of shows that became very large over the subsequent years after that grew very well. So I agree. Now is the best time to become a content creator.
It is the best time. And if you're thinking about quitting, pour on the coals, baby.
Right.
Pour on the coals.
Now's the best time.
It is.
Actually.
It is time to make hay. The sun is bright.
If you want to run ads as a podcaster to promote your show, probably you get the best. The CPM rates.
The sunshine is high noon with listeners right now.
Right.
They're hungry. They're consuming 9 hours a week.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
No one's listening. Even 55 plus, even us old folks are listening to about 8 hours a month. I mean, a week. That's 32 hours a month.
Yeah.
If I was in a church right now, I'd say, "Can I get an amen?" I was in a church.
Amen.
Come on. It's like, yes.
No. Bring it on, baby.
It is. It's amazing, amazing data here.
Yeah.
What percentage of monthly podcast listeners are weekly? 74%. 26% in the last month. So 74% of those folks are listening weekly. Number of podcast episodes listened to in the last week. 24%, 6 to 10. Now hold on to this. 11 or more, 19%. Do the math.
Right. That
means six plus is what, 34, quick math here, 53%. No, not that much. 43%.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Cow.
Or 6 or more, right?
That's a number. And there's 360,000 less episodes being created every 30 days. Oh my goodness. Give me a podcast. Go podcasting. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Listeners are receptive to podcast ads. We already know this. 46% of monthly podcast listeners say that ads on podcasts are not intrusive at all. Okay, we know this. I'm not even going to go into the advertising piece.
Well, Todd, the next slide is kind of interesting, though.
Okay. Oh. Yes, it is. YouTube, 43%, very intrusive. So much so that I spend $17 a month to not listen to ads on YouTube.
Right. I don't know. Is that the goal for the podcast advertising market? Is it we wind up looking like this and everybody has to pay for no ads?
46% don't think they're non-intrusive, so I don't think we're there.
No, we're not there, but I think some in the medium would like to get us there. So
you want to start with premium. This is what I'm telling people with premium. You want to do premium and have no really extra work, and you're not on time-sensitive content. If you want to do premium and start premium, just do a early release. Give your episodes earlier to your premium content. The 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 25, 50 people that pay you $5 a month for early release and then release the episode 3 or 4 days later you have no additional work. This is the way to start with premium if you want to play with premium. Do an early release. No ad-free, no extra episodes. Just do early release. That way you're not doing any more work.
Todd, pull that slide up again. because there is a number in there that I think throws up a little bit of a red flag that we should be concerned. Is that 37% number somewhat intrusive?
Rob, we're not running 5 ads on this show.
No, I realize that, but you compare that to all the other mediums.
Yeah.
It's the highest.
It's the highest.
So there's a little bit of a concern there.
A little. For the 25% that might be running ads.
Right. Exactly.
I know there's some in the base camp that are not base camp, but in the, podcasting 2.0 space that says banish programmatic. Consumer ads reach consumers with interests that align with your brand. Well, okay.
Top podcast genres by reach.
Okay, we're getting out of the advertising space.
Yes, we are.
Comedy's back on top. Society and culture, news, true crime, sports, business, health, religion, education, TV. I'm down at 16 with technology, history, arts, music, science, leisure, tech, fiction, kids and family, government. So, you know why society and culture is so big? Because it's a catch-all category. Most people, a lot of shows only fit in society and culture.
Right. That's a huge base of shows.
It's a huge base because they don't fit anywhere else.
Right.
Comedy back on top after displacing society and culture from last year. But
I think it's an interesting that news is in there.
I guess I do a news show. So do I rebrand mine as a news show instead of a tech show? I do tech news.
Yeah. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiction, 17%. Isn't that interesting?
Well, we could probably reclassify this show as news. Right?
Comedy, maybe. We'll do this comedy. The comedy hour.
We have to add a little more humor to this show.
Oh, we're just absolutely hilarious.
Right.
So I don't even want to get into this chart. This is really down in the weeds. But it talks about comedy podcast listeners. Got to download it. Download it and look at it. Compared to the U.S. 18-plus population, weekly podcast listeners are 47% more likely to have a 401k, 28% more likely to be saving for retirement. Well, maybe, I hope they did this before the economy went to crap. 19% more likely to own a pet and 12% more likely to own a home. But, this real world stuff, people are taking money out of their retirements in mass quantities right now.
Right.
Because of the inflation that we're seeing here. And of course, there's no inflation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think the last number I saw was like 6. I think we're at 6.4%.
So here's the pitch. Podcasts are mainstream. Podcasts have more listeners than ever, spending more money. Podcasts have incredible reach among young people and other key demos. Podcasts reach an affluent, employed, and educated audience. Listeners are receptive to podcast ads. Podcast ads reach consumers who align with your brand. And I will say that this year we'll give credit to Amazon Music, Wondery, and Art19 for sponsoring the Infinite Dial 2023 Podcast Consumer 2023 report with Edison Research minus Tom Webster.
Don't eat me, Tom Webster.
Well, Tom, I guess, was in Austin at South by Southwest with a Sounds Profitable event. And I heard that they held that event outside in a small kind of venue, which is not unusual at South by to have that kind of a venue.
Right.
South by
all the restaurants and places are booked through.
But I guess it was 90 degrees during their event.
Oh.
So people were, I guess, a little uncomfortable.
They weren't in an air-conditioned venue. They were outside.
Well, that's not unusual at South by.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want to hold an event, because there aren't a lot of venues to do things there. So people do restaurants or small little pubs and things like that are around the convention center.
90% in
90
degrees, probably with equal high humidity, knowing Texas. But it's still a little early for high humidity in Texas.
Yeah.
But still, hot is hot.
Yeah.
That's Texas hot. Texas sun is different, don't you know?
But I did hear that it had decent turnout. I haven't heard any follow-up or reports on the Shure stage.
I had a great conversation with Tom at the bar.
Oh, you did? Good.
You know, the bar activity actually for Podcast Movement was pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
You know, it was the first, but, you know, still everyone, 90% of the participants went off to ear blasting party that you could not even literally talk to someone, even with shouting. It was so loud.
Are you talking about the iHeartRadio event? Right.
There was no escaping the boom, 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 boom.
No, it was a pretty wild event, actually. Yeah.
So as big as that venue was, it didn't look like a lot of people were in it, you know, because they're usually.
Yeah, I think it was about half full.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
But anyway, there was and I will say this, the crowd at Rob, you and I are definitely, we're on the upper end age-wise of people attending these events. The crowd has gotten very young.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I mean like 30, I think there was a lot of 30 and below there, which was exciting to see.
And there's also a lot of people that went to Podcast Movement. They came from outside the U.S. too.
Yep,
so
that's true.
It was kind of an interesting mix of people from around the world coming to that event.
So I do want to say one thing. Podverse is leading our Satoshi donations basically 4-1 compared to Fountain, and 8-1 for Cast-O-Matic, and about 8-1 for CarrierCaster. So Podverse, Fountain, Cast-O-Matic, and CarrierCaster are the apps that you need over at podcastapps.com to participate in the Value for Value program. Have we given you value today? If we have given you value today, you can go to newmediashow.com and you can donate. There's a PayPal link there. Feel free to do so. Or if we've given you value, you go over to newpodcastapps.com, get a Podverse or Fountain app. Those are two I'm recommending. Get your debit card out, put some sats in your wallet. Very simple to do, less than 5 minutes. And then find the show and look for the little lightning mark and throw us 100,000 sats. And just to give you an idea, 10,000 sats is $2.50. 100,000 sats is about a $25 donation. But don't worry about the amount. Just send us some tokens, some sat tokens.
Right.
And we'll get Rob in the split so that Rob can start excited to see some sats coming into his wallet. Because Rob, now that you're going to need sat donations.
Yes, I am.
To buy your to get your Whole Foods food still bought and all those things, pay your rent or your house payment and everything else involved.
That's true.
Yeah, you're not going to you're not going to be walking around with a ball cap and would say working for donations, are you? Or anything like that.
Donations are always welcome.
That's right, they are. And I think now you probably are available for consultancy, right?
Correct.
Paid consultancy.
Right. rob.greenlee@gmail.com.
So don't say I didn't try.
I know. I appreciate that.
But, well, Rob, excited to see what happens with your new chapter here. And podcastez.com.
Yeah, that's not necessarily the primary thing that I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm building a kind of a media network of sorts. So it's all kind of coming together right now, but I am going to launch maybe potentially a couple of new shows.
Okay. So, you have your hairline is receding, and as soon as you say media company, what happens. You may end up bald like me.
Well, there's always a risk of that.
No, I think you got good genes. You've carried your hair this long. I don't think you're going to lose it by doing a little extra work.
Well, hopefully not. So anyway, so what's so I'm still planning on going to the NAB.
Okay. All right.
So that's coming up, and we are doing a session at the NAB. I don't know. I haven't even informed you entirely on this. So we're doing a session together as part of the NAB show. It's part of the kind of radio podcasting track there. And so we have the opportunity to have a couple of guests on stage, but that will be recognized by the NAB as a taping of the new media show.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to serve a dual purpose. So
All right.
instead of trying to find another venue,
They're
at
just
the
going to let us.
event-
They're going to record it for us.
Right. So I'm trying to get it recorded and that kind of stuff.
So, are you still looking for guests for that panel?
Yeah, I do. They have instructed me to get a couple of folks from kind of one from the radio industry and another one from like
If
like
you're
an
going to
Amazon
NAB,
or Wondery or some platform like that.
all right. If you're going to NAB and you listen to this show, send Rob an email. He may be looking for an extra person to sit in with us. So, if you're in the podcasting space and going to NAB and you fit the criteria, I
did get a list of attendees.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
not
cool.
for the whole event.
Yeah, but for
ones that may be good candidates
Oh.
for our show. So that's good.
So you're looking for, okay, cool. All right. That's awesome. And we'll always make sure that any content we put forth is forthcoming, forthwith, and not, how do we want to say this? New media show style. Let's just put it that way. We're not going to let anybody come up and start pitching any BS. So,
No, that's true. That's true. So we'll shut them down fast. Is that,
that's right.
is that the strategy, Todd?
Yes, and
Talk right over the top of them as they're pitching.
mhm. I heard a couple pitches at Evolutions, and I was kind of disappointed to see some people doing pitching. So, if people can't help themselves.
True.
All right, let's get out of
Are
here.
we going to wrap it up?
Yeah,
I
we're
guess we can.
we're at time, and guess what? You arriving right at 3:00 made us a few minutes late, so we're actually right on time, content
Right
creation
on
wise.
time. Right.
For everyone else, thank you for being here. I'm Todd at blueberry.com at Geek News, and drop us a note. And Rob,
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, and that's a great place to keep up with me. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, so you can find me over there as well. If you want to reach out, send me an email, rob.greenlee@gmail.com is the best way to reach me.
What-
So
what's your new title? Do you have one?
I've given myself a title like CEO, founder of Spoken Life Media.
Spoken Life
So-
Media. All right.
That's the kind of the legal entity.
All right. So I'll make sure that gets updated in our show notes.
What I
So-
do with that is still evolving right now. So
Spoken Word Media? Is that what it was?
Spoken Life.
Spoken Life Media. All right.
Right.
Hey, everyone that's live has been watching or listening. We thank you for being here. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, for another live recording of the new media show. And of course, if you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe or follow to the show by going to themediashow.com, hitting the follow or subscribe button on your podcast app of choice. But we want you to use a new podcast app at podcastapps.com. All right, everybody, see you next time. We'll see you here. Take care. Be good.
Bye.